Greetings, my dear friends. 45 days, and in 45 days, President Trump has lit the global geopolitics, set it afire. If the first month was hectic, the next 15 days have been confusing, confounding. More is expected to come. On one hand, the Trump administration placed India on a pedestal with all the atmospherics, from having the external affairs minister on the front seat to the first bilateral of the foreign secretary with India, the first multilateral with Quad. Modi will be the first few heads of state to meet Trump. The entire Trump cabinet will be introduced to Modi. But on the other hand, he has put India on notice. He calls India the Tariff King. He wants to impose, in fact, he's promised to impose reciprocal tariffs. He has set Indian internal politics on fire with allegations of interference by deep state, US aid. $21 million were paid to improve voter turnout. He has made it difficult for India to procure arms from the Russians, the Su-57, while offering the F-35s, the Striker, which has failed in its trials in Ladakh, as well as the Javelin, which is possibly a little outdated today. Trump is known to be transactional. He is known to be focused on deals and trades. India and US are strategic partners, yet there have been some glitches here and there which start putting a question to that. India needs to know what are Trump's views, especially tariffs, its strategic ambiguity or autonomy that it wants to maintain, its relationship with Russia and with other multilateral organizations like the BRICS. Welcome, my dear friends, to ChaxSimplifies, your channel to demystify and simplify complex geopolitical issues into easily understandable bites. In this video, we shall delve into what to expect from the new US administration led by President Trump, understand their imperatives, their concerns, and how they plan to address them. Also, at the same time, understand India's concerns and the concessions it may be willing to make. And finally, do some crystal ball gazing to see how will it impact India and how can India move forward. The main pillar of the Trump's promises is MAGA, make America great again. America will become great if it focuses on one area as per Trump, and that is technology, an area of leadership of the US. Technology would mean artificial intelligence, secure supply chains with strategic minerals, semiconductors, manufacturing, huge data centers, etc. That technology needs energy. That energy will come from oil and gas, and thus drill, baby, drill. Small and modular nuclear reactors, easy to put up, easy to maintain, and focus on fusion energy. China controls over 75% rare earth production. He wants to challenge that and therefore wants those rare earths in Ukraine or in Russia. Big tech needs big money. Big money is what Trump wants. And therefore, already he has signed a $500 billion deal with SoftBank for Project Stargate. Another 500 billion is coming from Saudi Arabia. He wants to create jobs. Jobs get created the most in manufacturing. To spur manufacturing in the US, he wants to increase tariffs so much that people are forced to manufacture in the US, create jobs. There are 20 million plus illegals working and living in the US. He wants them out, deport them. And he wants to cut China to size because China did take away most manufacturing jobs from the US. He wants to control trade routes. China has taken over virtually all of Panama operations, the Panama Canal, and it is levying significantly higher tariffs on the US. Panama Canal is a major route for the US for all shipments from the west coast to the east coast and vice versa. Therefore, there are already rumors of BlackRock buying out the equity of Panama Canal. He wants control or at least significant say in the Arctic routes as and when they open. Today they are not, but they will. And that is why his focus on Canada and Greenland, because that will give him access to those routes. There is the global south which is rising. There is the global north consisting of Europe and US, which is possibly declining, and Asia, which is also rising. The tri-junction between them is the Gaza. And that is why he wants the Gaza Strip to set up his own US base so that he can control this. He wants to reduce debt. The US today is sitting on a debt time bomb, over $36 trillion of debt. Debt servicing alone is $1 trillion annually, and that incidentally is higher than the defense budget of the US at $950 billion. He is very sensitive, therefore, to any thought, any move towards de-dollarization. He wants to cut government spending. Created Dodge essentially for that, and Dodge is already delivering on reducing the government expenditure. He wants to reduce the flab and the bureaucracy. Cut unnecessary expenditure on multilateral organizations like the WHO, Paris Climate Accord, especially organizations that are not furthering US interests. His focus is on USAID, the organization that is giving out money for, questionable moves that it is doing. He wants to empower the US industry to manage competition by doing away with the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. Essentially, it means even if you bribe, so be it, so long as you can get the contracts. He wants to make NATO and the others pay for US security. The US maintains 750 plus bases globally in 80 plus countries with 166,000 people there. Its expenditure is over 400 billion. NATO alone consumes about 100. The total NATO countries' budget is about 300 billion or under 2% of their GDP. Trump wants them to increase this and pay the US. We did talk about forcing US trade in its own favor. Today, US has a trade deficit of $1 trillion plus. It is importing 4 times of what it exports. The focus is therefore on the balance of trade and the threats of reciprocal tariffs, especially on countries where he has phenomenally adverse balance of trade. He's focused on Mexico, Canada, China. Don't forget, China uses Canada and Mexico as surrogates by assembling its products there and selling them under reduced tariffs to the US. He is moving to reciprocal tariffs. He has threatened to start from the 2nd of April. He says, I am not done yet. Therefore, by doing all this, he wants to put more disposable income in the hands of the common Americans. He wants to give them or create more jobs for them by relocation of US manufacturing in the US and deporting of illegals. He wants to improve their health, by a war on drugs. He's deeply suspicious of the deep state. He's trying to dismantle the old deep state, which was largely of liberals, Democrats, leftists, woke. All of them were anti Trump. Probably he would like to replace them with more nationalist, conservative. That will well happen. He wants to resolve conflicts, Ukraine, Gaza, Taiwan, and therefore bring the focus back to the US supremacy. Obviously, the method to do so he has chosen among the methods, that is to contain China. He wants to economically weaken China with tariffs. The reports of a 10 million job loss with just a 10% tariff on China. He wants to deny China technology. He wants to ring fence China by having alliances like the Quad, Quad Plus, AUKUS, and eliminate China from Persian Gulf with I2U2. He wants to drive a wedge between China and Russia. We must understand the US administration, not just Trump, but any US administration, and how they perceive India. For this, we must understand that the US perspectives, there are three major power centers in the US. The political establishment. This is sold on India. Bipartisan support to say India is very important and India cannot be missed unless you want to miss the bus. They accept India as the most important piece in their Indo-Pacific policy and to contain China. Yet, the other power center is the State Department, more traditional, infiltrated by the so-called deep state. It wants India to be managed and made pliable. It uses democracy, human rights, minority freedoms, and so on to corner India and to keep India under check. Then there is the military industrial complex. It is skeptical of India. It fears transfer of technology so that India cannot start doing everything independently. Although India has placed huge orders, $10 billion plus, it feels that these are not enough to take significant interest in India, and therefore it's not in their core interest. It is in this context you have to see the visit of Prime Minister Modi. He came up with a brilliant explanation. MAGA plus MIGA equals MEGA. MIGA is Make India Great Again. India has played to the US gallery. They have signed a deal to increase bilateral trade to $500 billion from the $129 billion today. That is over 4 times. Despite the tariff war threats, it can only happen if both countries can resolve the trade disputes and India starts replacing China in many of the global supply chains. Don't forget, Trump has called Modi a master negotiator. India and US want to upgrade investments in defense, nuclear cooperation, energy security, oil and gas, small modular reactors, collaboration in AI and semiconductors. India is drawing focus into Quad, IMEC, and the Indo-Pacific. Focal points remain defense, energy, trade, technology. So let's take them one by one. We now have a comprehensive defense roadmap for more than a decade. There are $19 billion deals in progress. Defense equipment to be co-produced like the Striker and Javelin despite the reservations. More extensive, comprehensive exercises across platforms. Expansion from the current only Malabar. Defense development partnership is going to be worked on with focus on development of future platforms. Something similar to the BrahMos that we have with Russia. There is already a protocol which has been signed on containing Islamic terror, financing, laundering, and the havens of Islamic terror. This enhances security of both nations. India is a $1.2 trillion energy market. US wants to be the top dog here. India has already committed to buy $30 billion worth of LNG in the next 5 years. India has committed a $10 billion investment in shale gas. We have committed to go ahead with small and modular nuclear reactors and will be making changes to the civil liability law. The US wants to replace Persian Gulf as the prime supplier of energy to India. India today enjoys a trade surplus of $46 billion, a target of $500 billion by 2030, which means in just 5 years, 4 times the current trade of $129 billion. Tariff talk is strident. But will the $500 billion happen in an adversarial relationship? Obviously not. This means there will be a free trade agreement. This means there will be concessions which will be made by both US and India. India and US have forged what they call as the trust relationship. Trust standing for transforming relationship utilizing strategic technology. This is semiconductors, artificial intelligence, space. NASA and ISRO have come up with a mission NISAR, Axiom 4. The NASA ISRO satellite will go up on a Polar SLV rocket very soon. Rare earth mining, processing, all this is a part of it. And don't ever forget the medium and low tech manufacturing. The market for medium and low tech manufacturing is over 2 times of high tech. And India will now start focusing on this space so that it is in conjunction with the US. India will need to make compromises, from tariffs to trade deals. It will have to reduce the trade imbalance, and it is already doing so by procurement of LNG with the 10 billion plus contracts. Qatar may well feel the heat. Changes in the nuclear civil liabilities law will enable US to export small and medium nuclear reactors. Purchase of military hardware, although they come with a very stringent end user agreements, there will be impact. But India will need to be rational and not show outrage. Trump wants dependence. We want autonomy. Yet don't forget, Trump has only 4 years. Actually 2, because 2 years from now there will be the elections to the Senate once again, some part of the Senate. The new US is here. We need to work with it. But there are silver linings. Don't forget, Microsoft is investing in AI in a big way. Sam Altman has come into India very recently and has promised to invest more and more in data centers. So what are our leverages in managing transactional Trump? TT for short. India is the only large economy that is growing, a huge market for US goods and services. It's a leader in IT, fintech, pharmaceuticals, and now mega engineering and construction. It's also the leader of Global South. It is the best alternative to China for both imports and exports, especially when China and US get indulged in a trade war. 40 million Indians study in the US. They pay over $40 billion in fees. But a lot of people lose sight that there are 7 million US citizens in India in very high paying jobs. Indians form a major pressure group, and there are many in the decision making chambers. Cooperation in dairy and agriculture is something India wants because India wants to increase yields per hectare. The aviation industry in India is growing by a CAGR of over 30%. 750 plus Boeing passenger aircraft are on order. $80 billion plus of military equipment is coming to be on order. US today accounts for 18% of India's military purchases. Also, don't forget, India's economy is based on internal consumption. It's not overly dependent on exports. So, we can survive tariffs. We're already searching for alternatives. Look at the European Union. Ursula von der Leyen and her entire entourage, 26 out of the 28 commissioners, including the defense commissioner, were in India 26 to 28 February to discuss a trade deal. External Affairs Minister is in the UK today discussing an FTA. Mrs. Astrid of Belgium is in India on an economics mission with a ministerial delegation of over 300 businessmen. We already signed a deal with John Cockerell to manufacture the Cockerell turret in India. The first time such turrets will be made outside of Belgium. The European Union has embarked on a very ambitious $800 billion plan to modernize and upgrade its defenses. Source, they haven't spoken, but very obviously US will play a major part. But India has a robust defense manufacturing today. It will also step up. Already, the Pinaka rocket system is pitched to France. Ammunition and other defense equipment is already being sold to the UN, to the EU. China and India are also looking to mend fences in some way. So what are our opportunities here? On one hand, you have the US, which thinks it is the policeman of the world, but it is finding the cost too high, $400 billion to maintain bases and personnel and do carry out these policing activities. It is looking for a multilateral world wherein it can hand over some of these activities to allies and partners. Trump is not an interventionist. He is focused on trade. The central pillar now seems to be shifting from containment to some sort of an engagement, looking at China as a competitor more than an enemy. Therefore, bipolarity versus multipolarity, US seems to be moving towards multipolarity. External Affairs Minister did point to that and said this is in India's interest. Defense cooperation and interoperability will be the central piece here. India has the opportunity to position itself as the go-to nation in South Asia and the Indian Ocean region. West of the Malacca, right up to Africa, US has very limited presence. With Diego Garcia and some of their fleets in the Persian Gulf, India has the bases. India has the navy. India has the military and the economic muscle to play the policeman here. Does it have the political will? This will well need a rethink in our approach, especially in our aspects of strategic autonomy. One indication came when President Trump did say, Bangladesh, I'll let my friend Modi handle it. With the declining US and European Union, the rising global South, trade is going to be the linchpin. And IMAC is bang center of it. And IMAC without India doesn't exist. Together with the Ben Gurion Canal connecting the Mediterranean to the Indian Ocean area, it will counter the Suez Canal also. It will be a direct competitor for the BRI. It will enhance the US presence in the region and influence, and very obviously means I2U2 is back in focus. Gaza and redeployment development of Gaza, probably with a major US base controlling this major trade route, is a focus area, and you have Trump with his outrageous plan of emptying Gaza and making a Rivera of Gaza. But there are challenges. Agreements with US fructify very, very slowly, painfully slowly. Of the 2023 agreements that we had made with the US, only 10% have reached implementation. The engines from GE, F404, 414, still are on their way. Already resulted in a 2-year delay in the Tejas. Apache helicopters for the army have still not seen. We want partnership, we want co-development. The US wants government to government foreign military sales with no trials. See the dichotomy? Military tech transfer, ICET, now called trust, still early stages. Nothing really much has happened here. There are huge expectations and poor delivery. This is something which we need to factor in. Is strategic autonomy a thing of the past? Will India rethink and start taking active sides? How will India navigate this apparent carrot of being the policeman of the South Asia versus its relationship with Russia, China? These are all areas that we need to work on. And we must understand Trump is in a hurry. His deadline, like I said, is 2027, 2 years, when next state elections start happening. He believes the US has been ripped by allies, by multilateral institutions, and he doesn't have time for them. The world is full of outrage at Trump. We need technology, especially high-tech, AI, semiconductors, manufacturing, especially transfer of technology. The last is facing a lot of difficulty. We need investment. We need strategic autonomy, but how will we manage that with Trump, who wants dependency? What are we offering? We are offering a huge market, the only growing large economy, leadership in the IT, fintech, pharma, construction, engineering space, strategic importance in the Indo-Pacific to manage or contain China, and further US interests in Indo-Pacific, our leadership in the global south. The new US is here. It is unlikely to go back to the old, even after Trump. We need to work with it. There will be a new deep state coming in. It will be more rightist, maybe more conservative. 2025 is going to be a challenging year for India and its foreign policy. India will need to keep its interests up front while keeping US pressures at bay. The Indian economy needs to grow at 8% to become a developed economy by 2047. Yet, global headwinds with uncertainty as far as Trump is concerned, the $500 billion trade target is very attractive. Even if we get half of it, we would have achieved significant. How far will we compromise? Will we accept US leadership and dent our autonomy? Don't forget, India has major issues in our immediate neighborhood. China, Turkey, and Pakistan are colluding. China and Pakistan are colluding in Bangladesh, and China is colluding in Myanmar. Is this opening a third or maybe even a 3.5 fronts as far as India is concerned? With Pakistan one front, China other front, and Bangladesh, Myanmar the third. We have our attempts to contain China may well have effects elsewhere, especially when China is on a demonstration spree of its belligerence, firing in the Tasmanian Sea, near Vietnam, Taiwan, South China Sea, fermenting trouble in all countries around us. We have two failing border states, Pakistan and Bangladesh. What will happen when they collapse? There will be masses of people wanting to get into India in the guise of refugees. We will have to be prepared for the ingress of jihadis in the guise of refugees from here. How will we manage that? We have reasonably porous borders with Bangladesh. Some state governments are willing or actually wanting to welcome them as vote banks. We're already battling illegal Bangladeshis and Rohingyas in India. We need to be prepared for growing instability inside India, unrest, anywhere under the guise of virtually anything. Enough pointers in the past. J&K is heating up, Punjab, terror attacks, and now the farmer protests are starting all over again, this time only in Punjab. Demographic changes have occurred in all border districts with Pakistan and Bangladesh. Ceasefire violations. ISI is active again in the Bangladesh, especially bordering districts, to foment trouble. Manipur, Mizoram are facing the brunt of it. Trade unions are causing incidents like the one in Samsung. Communal flare-ups happen at seemingly innocuous incidents. Sudden random attacks, cylinders on railway tracks, bomb scares in schools are happening. How we navigate these choppy waters, both external and internal, will determine our progress to achieve the goal of Viksit Bharat. My dear friends, we continue living in very interesting times. If you approve of the video, please like, please do comment. This motivates me immensely. As always, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you have not done so, and press the bell icon to be notified of all new videos. Do share this video with your friends and family. And as always, I look forward to your suggestions and continued support. Until next time, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.